How are the toes positioned relative to the ankle? Proximal, medial, superior, or distal? Distal. The toes are farther from the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. How is the patella positioned relative to the femur? Posterior, anterior, lateral, or superior? Anterior. The kneecap lies in front of the femur within the quadriceps tendon. On which aspect of the leg is the shin located? Posterior, medial, anterior, or lateral? Anterior. The shin is the prominent front edge of the tibia. How is the foot positioned relative to the ankle? Deep, posterior, distal, or proximal? Distal. The foot is farther from the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. How is the thigh positioned relative to the leg? Posterior, distal, deep, or proximal? Proximal. The thigh is closer to the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. How is the ankle positioned relative to the foot? Proximal, anterior, distal, or superficial? Proximal. The ankle is closer to the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. On which aspect of the leg is the calf muscle located? Anterior, lateral, posterior, or medial? Posterior. The calf is the large muscle mass on the back of the lower leg. How is the knee positioned relative to the ankle? Lateral, proximal, distal, or inferior? Proximal. The knee is closer to the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. How is the hip positioned relative to the foot? Deep, proximal, posterior, or distal? Proximal. The hip is closer to the trunk than the foot is. How is the hip positioned relative to the knee? Posterior, distal, deep, or proximal? Proximal. The hip is closer to the trunk than the knee is. How is the lower leg, the part between the knee and ankle, positioned relative to the thigh? Proximal, superficial, distal, or anterior? Distal. The lower leg is farther from the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. How is the fibula positioned relative to the tibia? Anterior, medial, superficial, or lateral? Lateral. The fibula is the thinner bone located on the outer side of the lower leg. How is the ankle positioned relative to the toes? Proximal, inferior, distal, or lateral? Proximal. The ankle is closer to the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. On which aspect of the leg is the patella located? Medial, lateral, posterior, or anterior? Anterior. The kneecap is located on the front of the knee joint. How is the knee positioned relative to the hip? Distal, anterior, superficial, or proximal? Distal. The knee is farther from the trunk than the hip is. On which aspect of the thigh are the hamstrings located? Lateral, posterior, anterior, or medial? Posterior. This muscle group is on the back of the thigh. The sole of the foot is on which aspect? Lateral, medial, plantar, or dorsal? Plantar. The plantar surface refers to the bottom or sole of the foot. The back of the knee is what region? Crural, tarsal, patellar, or popliteal? Popliteal. This is the hollow area behind the knee. How is the ankle positioned relative to the knee? Medial, superior, distal, or proximal? Distal. The ankle is farther from the point where the leg attaches to the trunk. The arch of the foot is on which aspect? Lateral, posterior, inferior, or superior? Inferior. The arch is formed by bones and ligaments on the sole. How is the big toe positioned relative to the other toes? Proximal, medial, lateral, or distal? Medial. The big toe is closer to the body's midline. On which aspect of the foot is the heel located? Posterior, anterior, lateral, or medial? Posterior. The heel is the rearmost part of the foot. How is the foot positioned relative to the hip? Superficial, anterior, distal, or proximal? Distal. The foot is farther from the trunk than the hip is. How is the femur positioned relative to the tibia? Posterior, lateral, proximal, or distal? Proximal. The femur is the thigh bone, closer to the trunk than the tibia. How is the heel positioned relative to the toes? Medial, posterior, superior, or anterior? Posterior. The heel is located behind the toes. On which aspect of the thigh are the quadriceps muscles located? Medial, posterior, lateral, or anterior? Anterior. These muscles are on the front of the thigh and extend the knee. How is the little toe positioned relative to the other toes? Medial, proximal, distal, or lateral? Lateral. The little toe is farther from the body's midline. How is the groin or inguinal region positioned relative to the thigh? Distal, posterior, proximal, or lateral? Proximal. The groin is where the lower limb attaches to the trunk. The top of the foot is the what aspect? Dorsal, lateral, plantar, or medial? Dorsal. The dorsal surface is the top of the foot opposite the sole.